Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am your host, Jeff Hootselle. I'm Chief Cloud Officer at AuditMax. If you guys have seen our show before, you know we spend time talking to IT leaders and talk about some of the amazing things that are happening in that sector and with their companies. And today is no different. We are very privileged to have Karen Green with Brooks Rehab as one of our guests. Karen's a CIO with Brooks. She's also a staple of the IT community here in Jacksonville. So Karen, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I mentioned you've been a big part of the IT community here in Jacksonville as well as kind of in the healthcare space. And we're doing a bit of a series on healthcare and IT. How have you seen your role as a CIO kind of evolve and change over the years that you've been at Brooks?
Sure. Well, we've got a lot of technology in healthcare, and health IT is really booming with the bringing in of electronic medical records and now integrating them, but really creating platforms of digital health for the workforce, for the patient, as well as trying to drive down costs. So I think, the concept of the triple aim, how can you improve outcomes and care? How can you engage the patient? How can you reduce costs? And also, how can you help the workforce work better and be successful? So that's the role of IT and supporting that workforce. Most of my workforce is mobile now, so it's wireless laptops and making sure that they're able to move about the cabin, if you will, doing their work and seeing their patients. We have a large home care division, and they're out on the road using mobile and wireless. So it's maintaining connectivity with their carriers, and depending on where they're located, it might be one carrier versus the other. But the resiliency that you have to build into your network and support that workforce is just critical now. Yep. So they're not sitting at desks. We're having to look at devices that can accommodate both voice and texting as well as the applications that they're working on. We just upgraded one of our EMRs, and the physicians can now do almost everything in their work on a smartphone. So what does that mean to them? They're currently working on wireless laptops, but moving to a smartphone is a whole different paradigm. Now, the screen size isn't that big, so they may not do their whole work on a small device, but the opportunity's there.
Sure.
And maintaining wireless is critical. And so we just did an upgrade in our hospital of our APs, and it was a slow, tested, thorough upgrade, but we missed a few end user devices with not the right drivers, and we had some downtime for those end users. So when you're, trying to plan these things out as, in a role at my level, it's what is the impact to the end user, not just the back end of the technology, and really trying to see around the corners of what could be impacted. And you can test, you can develop out the best piece of technology in the world, but if the end user is not impacted in the right way, not so good.
And I think just from our time we spent together, I know you're very passionate about kind of elevating that patient care as well as obviously enabling your staff to do those things. And it's great, and there's a lot of demands there of, you want to give them mobile, you want to be able to work from anywhere, you want to be able to have access to data and communicate and make that experience better. But there's also the flip side of that is, like you said, how do I make sure everything works and it's reliable and it's secure?
And secure.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It's really kind of a paradox, because you've got to give them access and make sure it's an agile access. We do two-factor, we do proximity badges for the clinicians, but at the same time, we've got to secure it. And we've got large amounts of data that are very sensitive.
Sure.
And so it's a challenge. And then we have government regulations on top of that. We just purchased new smart pumps, and we're all ready to get those in. And smart pumps are going to be integrated with our EMR, passing data. Clinicians won't have to manually collect it anymore. It'll go right into the EMR. It's great. The manufacturers of smart pumps and medical devices have struggled with making them secure. So we're ready to go. And all of a sudden, the FDA puts a hold on that model of smart pump, saying, well, we're not sure. You need a software change in order to really make sure that thing's safe. It is postponed. I just got the word yesterday. They're clear to go. So we will be moving forward with it. But it's both a curse and a blessing to have the government sort of having their fingers on it. But it's patient safety, do no harm, is of the utmost importance.
Well, so the other flip side of that I'm interested in is, so there's all these great opportunities for digital transformation and advancing it and giving people tools. What about the adoption side of those things? It seems like you're throwing a lot of technology, at your staff, whose job is to take care of patients. And now you're saying, we also want you to learn technology.
Right.
How do you approach that?
Well, it really has to be baked into their training. So we've always been good about training them on their workflow and their EMRs. But as we upgrade and introduce new technologies, we have to include that. So proximity badges, for example, we have to remind them that you've got to register for that and make sure you're a known privileged user. And then when you do it, this is the rules that you can use it by. And so really teaching them how to use wireless, if they're mobile and they need to reconnect, or if they lose connection, to call in, and we'll handhold some of that stuff, but it has to be baked in up front with their training. Not just this is how you use the EMR, but this is how you use your device. This is what this means to you. We've got a lot of remote workers, and we really had to put in some technical training for them because they're all-in-one devices that include voice. We gave them headsets, and they have to get comfortable with that. We also have a simulation lab for some of the clinical workflow. That's for clinical processes, but we're also doing some telehealth simulation so that they know what it's like to put their hands on a televisit equipment and give care in that format versus. So just letting them live the experience before they have to do it on a real patient is helped.
Yeah, I mean, you sound like you're busy. That's what it sounds like. So as you look at this and all the opportunities that are out there, is there any one technology that's really got you more excited than anything else? Do you think the impact it can have in the business, or is there?
That's a great question. I think just so I've been working to try to get unified clinical communications in at Brooks for a couple of years, and it's something I've sort of researched, and there's a lot of great platforms and great products. A little pricey, so we've been looking at it from all angles, and we've come across something that we're going to implement, and we're going to start with a physician so they can do secure texting, but it's also going to be integrated with the EMR. So if there's a critical alert that needs to be texted to the doctor, it can. We also found a device that's going to allow the nurses to do the texting and the voice, but it'll also allow them to take a picture of a wound and it be automatically loaded into the EMR. So just putting the technology in place that's really going to facilitate a digital workflow that's been too manual for too long.
Right.
And I think I'm excited that we're going to be able to leverage those things, and we've found the right kind of device. The same device is going to let them scan the barcodes to do medication reconciliation and not have to have a different kind of scanner. So that smartphone is, I think, we're on the verge of really leveraging what a smartphone can do in healthcare in a lot of different ways. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So last question for you. So if you were giving advice to someone kind of coming up in their career in healthcare of IT, and aspiring to be kind of in a role like you're in today, where would you tell them to focus? What words of wisdom would you give them?
Well, I was talking to somebody the other day that had a psychology degree, and I said, I think the cybersecurity industry can really use people with that kind of a degree, because it's all about managing human behavior, phishing campaigns, that kind of thing, designing those. But it's design thinking as well that helps, and the human factor in the technology. But when I look at the AWS and all the toolkit that they have to offer, if I was coming up, I'd be all over that thing, learning those tools and how I can apply them, and using design thinking to think about how do chatbots work in healthcare. How can we leverage voice recognition and machine learning? I mean, there's so many opportunities around that, but all those tools are really leveraging that, and a lot of them use just wizardry. You don't have to be a bits and byte coder to do some of that stuff. You have to be logical, analytical, and then really understand how can I apply this technology to the world, the industry that I'm in, whether it's healthcare or finance. And I think I love healthcare and applying technology just because it is such a compassionate world, and we just want to, help, our workforce, our patients, and there's so many opportunities there. But we don't have as much money as some of the other industries, but that sort of helps us be more creative in how we apply technology.
Yeah.
So
That's great. It's great advice. I love seeing how passionate you are about this stuff. I think it's fantastic. Again, we're so happy to have you on the show today. It's great to always see you again. It's always a pleasure.
great to be here.
Thanks so much. If folks
Thanks,
want to
Jeff.
find out more about you or follow you, is there a good place they can track you down? I know you're on social media a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, but Karen Green. You can find me on LinkedIn, Karen Green.
Right there. Well, thanks so much, Karen. I appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to catching you next time.